You are listening to Mystery Media Group.
Yay!
Keep your eyes and your heart open. Aliens are among us and are waiting to encounter you. For this evening's topic, we are going to have a UFO sighting roundtable. I've got several guests here with me tonight, which I will introduce in a moment, and we will have a very lively discussion about UFO sightings that we have seen in the area in which we live. So first off, I'll introduce Jake.
Hello.
Mystery Van.
Hello.
Of course, me, Elva, from Elva's Alien Encounters.
I'm Jill from Jill's Chills.
And Tenacious O.
Hello.
All right, so I'll turn the time over to Jake, and he will share his own personal account.
All right, so it was New Year's Eve. I remember the day, like the first sighting I saw. It was those mountains right up there. So it was on my grandma's house up at like the bench, what I call it. And then it's like New Year's Eve, we're banging pots of candles outside, just family tradition. And then I look behind me. Looks like a big beach ball. It's just like a bunch of different colors. So I thought it was like a small drone at first, and then like it just keeps going and going. Like I felt like it just like it's kind of like it was going around the mountain. I thought it was small. Like it was probably like an eighth of the mountain. It's like it went behind it. It was huge. It was pretty big. Just like a big colorful beach ball. And then my second sighting was up at Little Baldy, and then. You know, like, have you guys been the very top of Little Baldy? But I went all up there. And then if you look past, like look back where the road is, I saw like 10 white dots in a circle, like kind of like above the hill. And like, I was like, oh, that was just like a construction thing or whatever. I went back, like, I had to say like the next day. There. And then that same night, right before that, it was like this huge flare, and it was just silver. Like it was really bright, silver, and it went to red and just faded out.
With either of these encounters, did you have people with you that also witnessed it?
Yeah.
And what did they think when they saw this?
First of all, I didn't have any witnesses, but on the second one, I did, because we all saw this same thing. Yeah. I thought it was all pretty freaky too, because we didn't know what to think of it. So.
And you all drew the conclusion that it was probably some type of unidentified.
Yeah.
Object.
So I wanted to leave, so I chalked it up to.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
I feel like in talking to people, this whole mountainside over here has been the most active. When people have shared their stories, it's usually right along here, and it seems like it's usually at dusk. So just for the sake of anonymity, I'm not going to maybe give I'm just going to say the mountains in general, right at kind of the horizon line. Seems like people have noticed very large craft that does not seem military or of a satellite nature, and just doing weird things like remaining motionless and then all of a sudden going away very fast.
So how far away do you think that beach ball was from you guys when you saw it on?
It was towards the top of the mountain. So I'm just going to guess like 2 miles away.
2 miles away. And it was enormous, like the size, almost the size of the mountain.
Like I thought it was just like a drone, like in the sky, probably like a block away from me, and it just went around the mountain. I was like, what? That was pretty.
What colors would you say?
It was red, like red, blue.
Red and blue.
Red and blue, yeah.
It was like pulsating between the two colors?
Red, blue,
they
and
were
green.
both,
it was just like, it was kind of just like coordinating. Like it was just like.
Just like burning blue and.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's cool.
How fast?
It was just kind of going slow. Just taking its time.
Slow? And then it just kind of disappeared behind the mountain?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Did you wait to see if it would come back out, or?
No, because there's like a cut in the mountain, and then it just, because after that, it just gets higher. So you go, so.
Did it seem like it was deliberately like sitting there, or was it just like moving? You just noticed it like moving across the sky?
It was just moving across the sky. And like it didn't have any like disruptions in the air. Like it was just constant. So I don't know how something can be that steady in the air, especially at the altitude, because of the wind and all that stuff.
And it couldn't have been like a reflection of something.
Because it was. I remember it was a cloudy night. So I don't.
And it would be like midnight in the dark, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't be.
And it wouldn't be fireworks. It didn't look like
There's no way.
There's no way it was fireworks. Did anybody else in your family see it?
I'm pretty sure I'm the only one I saw it, but
How old were you?
maybe 16.
So old enough to know the difference.
Yes. I know it sounds really baloney, but
Well,
No, it doesn't.
I know what I saw.
I think that'd be cool to see. That'd be interesting, kind of. And it sounds like it was just about the right distance too. 2 miles away is.
Yeah. You don't want them getting
I'll take
closer.
2 miles rather than
Well,
yards.
and like that story. Yeah, the fire in the sky.
Exactly. I wouldn't be standing underneath that thing waiting to see what happens.
Have you heard of the fire in the sky story of the guys?
Walton and his crew. Well,
Sounds familiar.
They're like loggers or lumberjacks, and they were in and they saw like what looked like a fire in the sky. You tell it. You know.
so there's this logging crew, and they were up in the mountains, and they were trying to they're trying to stay on contract because they were kind of running behind, so they were working very late. It was dark. They finally packed up and started heading home when it was very dark. And as they're coming down the mountain, they see what looks like a fire in the sky. It looks like an airplane had crashed in the woods, just a little ways away from where they were at. But then the fire started moving, and as they were going down, it started to kind of get closer to where they were at. And then they saw this little bit of clearing in the trees where they could see this thing in the air. So they stopped and they were kind of staring at it. And before they, knew what was going on, one of the guys, Travis Walton, got out of the truck and walked towards this thing. And everybody's freaking out. There's 5 other guys in this truck trying to get back in the truck. They don't want to deal with whatever it is that's out there. So he gets out and he goes walking towards it. And then all of a sudden, he gets hit by a beam of light and then goes flying like 15 feet. And all of his buddies think that he's dead. So they go tearing down the mountain. They just bail. So they leave him there, and they're all freaking out. So they go down, they get, I think it was like a quarter of a mile down the mountain, maybe a mile down or a half mile down the mountain. And then they decide, they've got to go back and check on this guy. They can't just leave their friend there. So they turn around and they go back, and they get to where they think the clearing is. The object's not there anymore. And they're looking around, and all they see is scorch marks where he was standing. And some of the brush had been kind of disturbed from where he'd landed. But he was gone. He wasn't there anymore. So they look around for a second, but they're too scared. They end up going back into town. They call the police. The police come out. They look for him. It's this big thing. They're thinking that maybe he was murdered. The people in the town are thinking, he got killed and now they're trying to cover it up. Or they didn't believe in the story or anything like that. Well, 5 days later, Travis Walton shows up again. And he's like, malnourished and beside himself and just kind of incoherent, whatever. They bring him back and they start questioning him, asking him what's going on. Basically got abducted by aliens. Talks about how they were doing experiments on him and stuff like that. And there was other pods, other people, and essentially when he's looking at these aliens, they're what you would consider grays was actually like a spacesuit. So inside of the gray spacesuit was these kind of shriveled looking pale aliens. But they didn't have the big eyes. They had smaller eyes. The big eyes were just kind of the helmet to the suit or whatever, basically. At one point, he escapes in the spaceship, and he's kind of running around trying to find his way out. And they catch him and drag him back. He's just absolutely terrified. And then after 5 days, he wakes up just in the woods. So he runs down to a gas station and calls his brother. And, after that, the whole story kind of takes a while on a life of its own, and everybody's kind of trying to figure out how legitimate this is. They take lie detector tests. All of them pass, with the exception of one guy who was kind of a vagrant. He was kind of a little bit of a loose cannon, and he was not very cooperative anyways. But everybody else, for decades, they took lie detector tests, and they all passed. They all stand by what they saw, what they said, and Travis stands by what he said. And they still go up to that spot, I guess, every once in a while, and they say they get up there, and the hair on their arm stands up, and they freak out. But crazy story.
They've been interviewed a lot over the years, and their story is always the same, and they have been on Coast to Coast and some other things. It's probably the most credible alien story, I think, in an alien encounter.
Well, I feel like maybe 4 or 5 years ago in my family, we were down at Lake Powell on a houseboat, and one of our favorite things to do is sleep up on the deck at night and just stare at the night sky. And there was one evening when there was this absolutely almost like a giant comet was just like burning across the sky in front of us, but it was so close. It seemed like it was having a lot of friction and burn as it was coming to the atmosphere very near us. And I did not feel like it resembled a shooting star or anything of that nature. It seemed very unidentifiable to me.
Dan, did you see it?
Yeah, I did. It was a very clear night. What did you think when you saw it, Mystery Van?
Mystery Van.
I thought, wow, I've never seen something like falling from the sky like that close up, and you could like really see like the flames.
It could have been anything though. It was really weird. That's all I have to say.
Can you tell about how far away it was? Was there anything else to kind of like gauge that by, or?
So
The shooting
the
star.
part of like how we were at, I feel like we were kind of across a bay, and then looking back out towards the mesa, it seemed to me like it was just right on the edge of that mesa. But it was so big, it might have been further away. Or it was like a giant meteor. I don't know, but it was massive. And I was just like, did everybody see that?
And it was always just going one direction, or did
it was just going one direction.
And then all of a sudden just like disappeared.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I was like, I know that when things enter or leave our atmosphere, it does create like a flaming friction thing. So I feel like it could be something of that nature. It's big enough that I feel like we would have seen some kind of like impact, or I don't know.
Meteors, they do break apart too. So just break.
Even a small piece of a meteor would make it when you hear the impact and you see the evidence.
Yeah.
If it touched down, if it did touch down, then that makes the meteor theory suspect. Maybe it's if it did ever touch the ground, then where'd it go?
Yeah.
Unless it burned up. If it burned up, then maybe that.
It was just so big, I don't know if it could have burned up. And we saw so many other shooting stars that night, and none of them looked like.
Yeah, it was like a class of its own. I'll say that. Like to this day, I can still see it, and I was like, "What was that?"
So you know the difference between a shooting star and what this was, and it wasn't.
I feel like I do, but once again, I think that's the whole point of a UFO is that object is not easily identified, and I feel like this totally classifies as being unidentifiable.
Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar?
Which is Area 52, Area 51.
Knows him. Yeah, Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
Oh, tell us
He
about him.
reverse engineered some of the anti-gravity from some of the UFOs and stuff like that. He's super credible. He only came forward because he was worried that his life was in danger because he knew so much that. So he came forward and said, "This is the stuff that I know. If I turn up missing, it's because this stuff is true, and they're trying to."
Did he? Is he dead?
No, he's alive still.
Yeah.
Supposedly there's an element that they discovered that is key in anti-gravity and many other like propulsion systems and stuff that supposedly and they're still kind of like watching him and keeping an eye on him because supposedly he took some of it with him.
Okay.
And so it's supposed to be like a really big deal. Like it's
he came out to who?
And it was it Art Bell or George Knapp or something like that?
I think he first came out to the news and like they like put a silhouette over him, but George Knapp George Knapp was probably the first one.
Yeah.
So did he go on Coast to Coast and talk to those guys?
He's another one who's done a lot of interviews and a lot of stuff. Yeah. He's a really, really smart guy too. He's like a rocket engineer. Like he's
crazy. Yeah. Smart. Like before he worked at Area 52, St. Alamo. Yeah, he built his own jet powered Honda.
Yeah, that's right.
It's crazy. Like it didn't look like crappy too. It looked like,
which is another one of those things that could land him in a cardboard in a wooden box, because powers that be don't want to have that kind of technology cruising around either.
Are you talking about the government or aliens?
Talking about the oil industry.
Oil industry. Oh, because he was using a jet power. He created a jet powered Honda.
Yeah, it would.
That doesn't require gas.
I'm sure he's
just on jet fuel, probably.
Yeah. Jet fuel.
You wouldn't be buying your gas at the pump. Anyway, really smart dude, really cool guy. I've watched I don't know how many documentaries on him and seen stuff on him.
Yeah, I've researched him a lot. Joe Rogan talks about him. Talks to him.
I think Joe Rogan. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast.
That's how I found him.
Really?
Yeah.
He talks a lot about like the reverse engineering that he did with the UFO. He talks a little bit about kind of what they look like, the structure, and how they work and stuff like that. Like, I mean, and you can hear when he's talking about this stuff. Like for me, I don't understand it. Like it sounds legitimate and stuff, but you can tell that he's like very knowledgeable about it.
Yeah.
Was he there when the aliens crash landed at Area 51?
No, this is he just showed up to the site to work and he says that everybody was kind of like siloed and compartmentalized. So these guys didn't work with those guys didn't work with these guys. So they kind of kept some of that stuff kind of separate and everything. So he didn't really know a lot of what else was going on. He was just there to learn about and reverse engineer the anti-gravity, the propulsion,
Of the actual spacecraft.
of the spacecraft, of the UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
He has like diagrams and shows like kind of how it worked and everything, and really cool.
And what did he take with him?
It was a new element. It was like I can't remember the number. What it's called?
Like S14 or something.
Something strange like
Crazy.
that.
But an element that's not on Earth.
Yeah.
So obviously this technology and everything did not exist on Earth prior
Extraterrestrial.
to
Extraterrestrial.
It's not on the Earth.
Really, like he saw some of the flight because they took it out. So he knew when like it was like a scheduled flight plan. So he took some of his friends out one night to watch him fly, and then the cops got him.
Oh, really?
So that's why he kind of got like tripped up in this mess.
When was that crash landing? Was that like 4 years
It
ago?
wasn't a crash landing. They had ships on this base.
there was a crash
but
landing
there was
in
a crash.
Roswell.
Yeah, there was.
Oh, that was
That was
Roswell.
48.
1948?
I think somewhere around there.
And they found dead aliens, right?
Supposedly there was one that was alive, two that were dead. It was really crazy. It was like really lightweight, and it was kind of like pliable, and it had weird symbols on it, like
The spacecraft they had.
like almost Egyptian symbols, but not quite, and nothing that was like determinable.
So they were just flying spacecrafts around? Is that...
They were just experimenting on like to see like what they were.
So had they found them... Had they found them, or did they make them themselves?
That's the question, and he doesn't even know that. I don't think.
I think they found them because
It seems like they were found, but I mean, I don't think he ever comes out and says, "Yeah, they were aliens." I mean, he says that there was technology that they didn't know and understand, and that's why he was brought in.
Yeah, kind of
And then they like replicated it, or they just used those actual
Elements.
I don't think they replicated. They just tried to figure out like how they could use it. They were trying to just use it for themselves.
I think really the big takeaway from it, the big thing they learned was this element that helped them to be able to manipulate gravity fields. Use this element, they were able to defy gravity essentially.
Do you want to hear the story about the parallel universe?
The coolest episode of Coast to Coast ever, in my opinion, was Art Bell. It was way back in the day. He gets a caller that calls in randomly one night, and the guy's hysterical, just absolutely hysterical, like crying and stuff. He's like, "Art, I don't have a lot of time. They're coming after me. I just want to let everybody know and get this out there. The things that we think are aliens, they're not really aliens. They're actually extra dimensional beings, and they're coming here, and they're not what they say. They're not what you think, and people think that they're coming from other planets. The planets are too far away. That's not how this works. They're extra dimensional beings, and they can travel between the dimensions, and they're here to take over. This guy's just absolutely hysterical. And then, as in the middle of this story, for the first time in all of Coast to Coast history, they get knocked off the air. The satellite just shuts down, and he can't get the caller. The whole radio goes down. They end up going to some other program for a little while, for like 15 minutes, and then they come back up, and the caller has left the line, and he was on the line again with Art Bell for only 5 or 6 minutes. After the satellite cut out, he gets back on the line. He's like, "This has never happened before." Art Bell's like, the guy was acting like somebody was after him, and it was a dire situation type of a thing, and it seemed like somebody knocked him off the air, shut the satellite down, and stopped the broadcast. And he could never get hold of the guy again. And that was just kind of left at that. It was just like this guy all of a sudden drops off the line, and then the radio station got shut down, so this guy couldn't tell anymore the story. And that had never happened before or since on Coast to Coast.
Tell about the man from that continent that doesn't exist in...
Horrid.
Yeah.
It's not really like an alien thing, but it's like
But it's still parallel universe.
Yeah. So supposedly this guy is a businessman And he shows up to the airport just like always. And he's got his passport and he's checking in and they're asking him, what he's doing. He's like, yeah, I'm from Torrid. And they're like, well, where's Torrid? We don't know, they don't know where that is. But they're looking through his passport and he's got stamps from, all over the world. And so they're starting to ask him questions. It's kind of seeming weird. They're not really sure what this guy's deal is. So they take him to an interrogation room basically, and they're asking him more questions. And he's like finding this really strange. Like, why are we, why is this a problem? Why is this thing? Like, I travel all the time. So they pull out a map and they said, show us where Torrid is. And he points over to I think it was somewhere in Italy or, Southern Europe, somewhere around there. And he's like, it should be right here. This map isn't right. How old is this map? Like, what are you guys pulling here or whatever? And it wasn't on the map, but he said, this is where Torrid is. And he had money that said from the, Federal Reserve of Torrid or whatever. It was all of his IDs were from this place. And he could and then all of a sudden he's feeling super out of place because he can't understand why nobody knows Torrid or where he's from or what's going on. He can't explain it. So they decide that they put him up in a hotel and keep the hotel room guarded while they try to figure this out. They're making phone calls, trying to figure out, where he's been, where he's from, all this stuff. And so the next day they go up to get him out of the hotel. He's just gone. He's just couldn't have got out the window, couldn't have got out the door. He's just all of a sudden gone. It sounds to me like it was very inadvertent. He didn't know that he was doing it or what was happening because he was confused. He couldn't place himself and they couldn't place him. And I think that he was really genuinely surprised. It wasn't like he'd done anything on purpose.
It was clothing normal.
Just normal dude. Everything. The passport looked the same.
That would be the worst. If you slipped into another universe or slipped another dimension. That would be sad though and lonely.
It depends on how close the dimension is because, in this guy's case, he was going about his business just like it was every other day. He would not have known any different unless there was this discrepancy at the airport. Maybe if you slip into another universe that's so close to the same, you still have, your same family, your same.
The Mandela effect.
The Mandela effect. That's a good.
What if you don't even know? You remember something how it is, but everyone.
You feel like you're just being gaslit by everybody in the whole world.
Oh, I might be in one then.
But the Mandela thing, people said he was dead.
Right, and it was on the news and everything. Apparently,
yes.
People remember that, anyways.
Yeah.
When he really died, and it was in the news.
You know what I think? This is what I think the Mandela effect is. Newspapers make mistakes, and nobody catches the fix. They say something that's wrong, and then they don't fix it.
Well, that explains something like the Mandela one specifically, but not like the Berenstain Bears, right? Because that's a book that you read.
What do people think it's Berenstain?
You would I remember books with the E, not the A,
right?
And if they would change it, but I still have the book and it changed to an A.
Then you would remember. That's true, but we all think it has an E.
Yeah, I remember having an E.
There's a lot of those too that I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. But yeah, there's a lot of kind of those really strange, I remember it a different way than either everybody else remembers it or than is documented Terminator.
Looney Tunes, there's no T-O-O-N-S, it's T-U-N-E-S.
Oh, yeah.
It seems to lend credence to the alternate universe kind of a thing. And having them be so close together that it's maybe we do kind of slip in and out of them, or maybe the memories or the consequences kind of cross over or something.
Because I feel like if there were aliens out there, I think there's more a chance that they would be like us than being kind of really outrageous looking, and we just periodically coincide, probably due to our dimensions being so similar. And that's why I think if they really are some on Earth right now and we don't really recognize them, it's because they do look so similar to us, and they just seem like basically the human.
I think that's one of the
that's my thought.
I don't know if it's a paradox or if it's but I think that people are prepared for little green men, but they're not prepared for a spaceship to land and Tom, Steve, and Jerry to walk out. Regular humans to walk out, I think would blow people's mind a lot more than a little gray man coming out.
Yeah, and I heard a thing on a study that said, if aliens did come or whatever, would people on Earth be upset or have a hard time believing it? And some university did a study, and they said that 50% people on Earth actually already believe that extraterrestrial or alien life is already here. So most people wouldn't be actually very concerned. They'd just be like, oh yeah, they've been here. So,
Like, I do think it's here, but like, if it like actually came out, I'd be like, whoa, it's crazy.
so thank you everyone for joining me tonight on my Alien Encounters quad annual roundtable.
Thanks for listening, and keep your eyes on the skies.
This is a production of Mystery Media Group.
Yay!